for 45th District House of Delegates. I'm running on the platform of school choice and neighborhood security, where students can go to any school of their choice regardless of boundaries, and that our neighborhoods can be secured and we can be proactive instead of something happening to our homes and our neighborhoods, and then the police is coming after the fact.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Cynthia, and the rest of the community leaders for putting together this forum. I'm Sharon McCullough. I am currently the only elected State Central Committee member on the ballot, and I'm running for the House of Delegates for the 45th Legislative District, number 1, because I love my city as well as the district of which I am a lifelong resident of. I have lived in a number of communities throughout the 45th District, and I am now planted in the Bel Air Edison community, of which I purchased my home as a single parent at the age of 25, and I've been in that home now for 30 years this year. I wish I could tell you all that it would be paid for this year. However, it will not be, because I had to use that investment to help offset some of the costs of my higher educational goals. I'm a proud graduate of Paul Laurence Dunbar. I rock and wear the maroon and gold with pride, as well as an active alumni as part of that community. In addition, I am a teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools, so I know firsthand what's going on in our school system, okay? And not only that, as I said, I'm a stakeholder in this community, and I believe, and also as a teacher, I'm also a licensed professional counselor. So I will be the champion as well as the challenger of the most of these issues that are plaguing our city today in terms of education, crime, and the opioid epidemic, excuse me. And I believe that education is truly my first priority and platform, because it's just like Frederick Douglass said, it's easier to build strong children than it is to fix broken men. But another adage that he used to say is this: he believed and knew the value of education. Excuse me. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to all of the community associations that came together to make sure that you have a conversation with all of the candidates. I am Delegate Cheryl Glenn. I'm proud of my lifelong record of community service and representation, bringing forth strong, positive results for the people, starting back when I was a PTA president, and we started the Teacher of the Year Award that's now replicated around the state of Maryland. I also served 2 terms on the Democratic State Central Committee, and I've been elected as a delegate for 12 years. I have a lot of leadership experiences that I bring to the table. We have got to be very serious about who we send to the legislature for the next term. Baltimore is facing some very, very challenging times. We're the only jurisdiction that continues to lose population. What does that mean? That means we probably will lose representation, maybe another district. You've got to have the strongest delegates and senators that's possible, because we're looking at losing resources. So when you look at what we need for our schools, what we need for our social services, for all of our people, working men and women, our seniors, our children, recreation and everything, everything is driven on who you have in Annapolis, the relationships, the team that brings forth the positive results. Nothing can be done individually. Nothing. I don't care who you are. And if you don't have the favor of the leadership, guess what? You don't get your agenda accomplished. I'm a very strong representative. I just finished my term as chair of the Legislative Black Caucus for the entire state of Maryland. I look forward to continuing my service to you, and thank you so much for hearing me.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Smith, and I'm a candidate for the Maryland House of Delegates. I'm also a neighbor right on Washington Street around the corner between Eager and Chase, so very happy to be with everyone here this morning. I want to also extend my gratitude to all the organizers. Thank you for pulling this off, even with some challenges around location. The main reason why I'm running is for my son. I have a 3-year-old son. I'm a product of public education, so is my husband, and we fully intend to have our son benefit from public education as well. And I think it's really important that we elect people that have skin in the game right now, that are raising their children in this city. So So that's a big motivation for me. My family was birthed in the city. My son will always be from East Baltimore. And one of the things that's going to be really a focus next year in the legislature is looking at the budget and looking at the formula that we use for the school budget. So I really think that we need people in there that can articulate why it's important to help Baltimore, not because it's a handout, but because it's a part of a stronger Maryland. So that's something that's really important to me. Another thing that I think you should know about me is that by day I do work for the city. I am an assistant director in the Department of Planning. And I do see that there's interaction from state representatives within the city, within city government. And I think that having the opportunity to see how all levels of government interact is actually a benefit, because nobody is doing anything in silos. Different levels are working together, and the more you can manage and be knowledgeable of those relationships at every level of government can benefit the residents of Baltimore City. A little bit about me. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college, and that was possible because I had access to a high-quality public education. Now, my family started off middle class, we ended up lower income, but it didn't matter that we fell in hard financial times, because I knew that if I were able to get out of high school, I would be prepared to go to college. So I went to Hampton University, where I got a degree in political science. I went to the University of Delaware after serving in AmeriCorps, where I received a master's in urban affairs and public policy. And ultimately, I secured my law degree from Howard University School of Law, and I'm barred here in the state of Maryland. So I am a proud product of what public education can do, what it makes possible, how it can transform generations. And I'm so excited to be here this morning, and particularly to get questions from the young people. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rita Church, and I'm running for delegate for the 45th Legislative District. To me, education is very important. We have to invest in communities, neighborhoods, and in our kids. I've been in the 45th District for 25, almost 30 years. I brought Community Center, which is the Rita Church Community Center, to the 45th District. We have to have bipartisan politics, which means we all have to work together to ensure that these communities and our children get what they need to fulfill their educational dreams. And we also must be mindful that when we do not promote housing, then we have what you call transits that move in and out of communities, and that's not building communities. Families need structure. They need structure. In my household, when we sat down at the table and we ate dinner, we talked about God first, and then we talked about politics second. Because we had to know who was representing us in our communities. We have to know this. You have to get out, you have to know your legislators, you have to know what bills they vote on that will affect your economic base. So when you do that, you have a clear understanding of what public policy means. And it means this to me. This is what I'm going to leave you with. We are a people who have done so much with little that we can't afford to do nothing. So we must do something, and it is now.
Your delegate branch. I'll go.
Yeah, we're going to go back around.
Hi, my name is Andy Ellis. I'm a Green Party candidate, and I won't be on the primary ballot, but I will be on the November ballot. I want to start off with a few things. I'm not from East Baltimore. I didn't grow up here. I wasn't born here. I didn't go to school here. I grew up in Frederick with a single mom who was a government employee, started in the mailroom of the United States Senate, and went on to become one of the first women to be press secretary for a United States Senator. I learned early on the value of hard work and service from her and understood the importance of government. So how did I get here? In 2005, I came to Baltimore in order to help set up the Baltimore Urban Debate League middle school program. And what that did is that put middle school debate programs into the 14 middle schools that the No Child Left Behind program had determined were persistently dangerous. We believed at the time that giving young people the opportunity to express themselves and to be advocates for their community was one of the ways of solving the problems of those dangerous schools. It worked. Over 1,000 kids participated in the first 2 years. We had tournaments up there at the Lake Clifton building. We were able to get thousands of students talking about the policy and advocacy necessary for their community. So after that, I went on to work at my alma mater, Towson University, where I coached the first team of 2 African American students to a national debate championship. That set off an era in which Baltimore became a city of champions. And since then, we've now had something like 10 national debate champions, and those folks have gone on to become advocates for themselves and their communities. After that, I went on to become a leader of the local Green Party, because I believe that the same thing follows through. We need to give people the opportunity to advocate for themselves and break out of the systems that have been there for a very long time. I look forward to continuing this conversation with you from today through November, and hope that we can figure out how to address the needs of the community, give people the power to advocate for themselves, and come up with new solutions from the same things we've been trying for all these years. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Glenn Ross. I've been in Baltimore all my life, 68 years young. I grew up in the Berea community. My family moved there 64 years ago. And that's a community where we learn family values, community pride, and spiritual guidance. Okay? Doing household work and maintenance work around your house wasn't a job task. It was a responsibility. In 1980, I renovated a house that I lived for 9 years, a 3-story house, gutted it, we had it. And I was here as a single parent raising 2 daughters. I became president of the Neighborhood Association. I've been president of Bellevue Park here for like about 28 years off and on. I've sat on every board that was in this neighborhood that wanted to do business in our community. My thing is hold people accountable and make sure that the money is being spent in these neighborhoods. I've been on Hopkins board for almost like 36 years. I'm now a Hopkins employee. My job is I sit and try to hold Hopkins accountable for how to do business in East Baltimore. Over 25 years ago, I created the East Baltimore Historical Tour because there was a disconnect between Johns Hopkins and the community. Hopkins is one of the biggest assets we have. We're not pleased with everything that Hopkins have done in our community, okay? But they're an asset. My role is to get up in there and get whatever resources and tools that we could get to bring back into these communities. That was 28 years ago. About 12 years ago, they created the Johns Hopkins University Source, bringing students into the community to volunteer in the organizations, the schools, the faith-based organizations. And I'm their community consultant. I do the same thing for Micah Place, bringing those arts students in here. I'm the founder of the Urban Environmental Toxic Tour, educating the community about how our living environment affects our health. Think about it. We're within the shadows of the best hospital in the world, Johns Hopkins. I purposely made this tour between its campus, East Baltimore campus, Bayview, and Homewood campus. Okay? And I'll tell you more.
Yeah, stop it. Thank you. All right. And just remind, we have 2 minutes to do the introduction, okay? This young man here is timing right there.
My name is Andy Pierre. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I'm married with 2 kids. I'm the former executive director at the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland. And I'm running because I want to help rebuild the middle class by ensuring access to good jobs, good schools, and clean streets. And I think together we could find new ways to solve old problems. And I'm known for keeping it brief, so I'm done.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindsey Jackson. Born and raised right up the road here on Biddle and Patterson Park, where my grandmother still lives, now for 63 years. I went to Baltimore City Public Schools, Coppin State University. For the past 10 years, I've been working under the past 2 mayors and the current mayor on youth initiatives. And this community in particular have got a chance to see me in action during the summer block parties, where we not only give our young people an opportunity to share their talent, but we also bring city resources into the community. So we've been in Dalby Park, we've been on Lakewood, and we've been in Bochek for the last 3 or 4 years, bringing a lot of resources into the community. I'm running because I believe that the community is looking for new energy and innovative ideas. I'm running for our young people. I want to focus on youth and education. The 21st Century School Plan was something that I drafted under the Stephanie Rawlings-Blake administration. I would like to do the same thing for recreation centers. I believe our young people need a safe place to go. Our families need somewhere to go. And I also want to work for fight for working families. I'm an area vice president for the City Union of Baltimore. So day in and day out, I'm fighting for working families, making sure that our workers' rights are protected. And I also want to protect our seniors. And I'm blessed to have my grandmother in the back there who raised her family on Greymount and Chase, which is also in the 45th District. And my other grandmother, as I said, is on Biddle and Patterson Park. So I hope you listen to me in a little bit and learn more about me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Or good morning, everyone. My name is Kalen Young. I'm 30 years old and I'm an attorney. Grew up the street in Hamilton. Went to Gardenville Elementary, Hamilton Elementary Middle, Baltimore City College, Hampton University, and the University of Baltimore School of Law. Through my short, young career, I've worked as legislative assistant and community liaison for Delegate Cheryl Glenn and Senator Nathaniel McFadden. I've also worked in criminal justice reform in the office of United States Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, and I worked as a felony law clerk and citywide community liaison in the office of State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. I'm running on 3 core issues. The first one is to restore integrity to the police force and build the trust between the community and the police. I did a lot of work in that in the State's Attorney's office, and like I said, in the office of Cory Booker. I'm also running to make sure our schools are fit for learning. What we understand is that our class sizes are too large and our facilities are not up to par. And the third part of the platform is supporting seniors, making sure that we're accessible and have programs that will help seniors who are on fixed incomes, reduce their tax burdens, and make sure that those expenses those programs that help with their expenses are fully funded. Looking forward to having this conversation, and thank you for having me today.
My name is John Monkwa. I'm 38 years old. I'm running for House of Delegates, this district, because I want to bring more cops that live in Baltimore City here instead of living in other jurisdictions. We pay the highest amount of taxes in Maryland, and I'm concerned about that. Baltimore City it's for property taxes close to 5%, and I want to bring that down. I'm also worried about health care. My family is plagued with health conditions, so I have a health condition, so I'm also worried about that. It seems like the health care keeps on going higher and higher, and we need to have a problem. We need to solve the problem for that. So that's what I'm running for.
Okay, so.
Thank you. I'm State Delegate Towns Branch. I have a track record already. You're willing to Google it, look me up, see what I've done, what I haven't done. But you'll find that I am one heck of a fighter for the 45th District, and I have been for a number of years. Worked well with the city, well with the council people, well with the mayor. Let me also say a little background on me. Raised in Baltimore all of my life, Salisbury State University, college I attended. Following that, worked on the staff of Congressman Parren J. Mitchell, and then after that, what did I do? After doing that, he pushed me into wanting to run for public office, and I did. In 1995, I served my very first session. So I've been in the seat for 24 years, and since being in the House, I served on the Appropriations Committee, where I served as the Vice Chairman of the full Committee on Appropriation, about 23 members. And then from there, I became the House Majority Whip, which is the third in power in the General Assembly. So I have a very serious role there in working with the Speaker and working on the Democratic Party's agenda. So that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, before we begin taking questions from the audience, we do have our Councilwoman Shannon Sneed in attendance. So I wanted to give her a couple minutes to come up and say anything if you want to.
Just good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I just am excited for this election because I'm excited to work with you guys no matter who it is. I work closely with the delegates and the senators. They help with legislation to make Baltimore City better. And so I just look forward to you all being here, helping out Baltimore City in your time when I know you could be like door knocking and doing other things. So thank you for your time and thank you for coming today.
Okay, so we're going to begin with the questions, and how it's going to work is anyone who wants to ask a question will come to the podium, and you will have 30 seconds to ask your question, and the candidates will have 90 seconds to answer the question. Okay, so we want it to be kind of succinct and quick. And we're going to start, as we stated, with the children from Tench Tillman, who prepared questions for you all to answer. So we're going to start with the kids, okay?
Hello, I'm Zaya Breathwaite. I'm 15 years old, and I'm the chief editor of the Journalist Club at Tench. So at my school, we have a lot of after school programs and some fun things you can do. But I want to know how are you going to make sure our school gets more equitable funding for better technology, after school activities, and better animal sport programs.
Could you say that again and speak up a little louder? You hear?
I said, how are you going to make sure our school gets more equitable funding for better technology, after school activities, and better animal sports programs?
Sports program, when you say at the end?
So okay, we're going to start. Let's start with Ms. Rucker.
I think with school choice, that will give us the funding that we would need. Children can go into boundaries, and that will help us because Baltimore City is one of the highest per student that is being paid to our Baltimore City and all. And I think if we are able to go to school choice, and the children, like you may want to go to a school across the street and you're not allowed to. This will allow you to do that, which will give us more funding and will allow us to be able to do all the things that you need to do.
Thank you for that question, young lady. As a teacher in Baltimore City schools already, I do support STEM highly. I'm actually a STEM teacher. For those of us who don't know what STEM is, and we also add that A for STEAM. STEM is the science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. I will continue to be a champion. I actually outfitted both of my classrooms this year as a director of technology for the school that I serve, so that we could have, for the first time, enough computers for every student. I also teach my students how to design apps through a partnership that I have with Lenovo. So at the table in Annapolis, I will serve as another agent for change to help find the ways that we know right now that our current incumbents have already started allotting money to the school system for this coming years, but we need to do more. I also understand that we have money set aside for the infrastructure, but like you, young lady, I'm looking for the resources and equipment to help us build our young people. So yes, I will be a champion and a challenger for those resources that we so need as well as deserve in our school system.
Good morning, and thank you as well for that question, and thank you for being involved in your school program. Let me just say, and I'm Delegate Glenn, let me just say that we have fought for the funding for our schools. We are, Delegate Branch, myself, and Senator McFadden were part of the team of the Baltimore City delegation that brought back the $1 billion package to make sure that our students would be able to go to quality schools in Baltimore City for the first time. We also brought home money for funding recreational programs. I remember several years ago, it was my concept, and I fought for it, and then we did some other maneuvering with it, but we needed to access table game revenues specifically to be targeted for recreation in Baltimore City, and that had not been done. This year, we will have the casino lockbox bill on the ballot for everyone to vote for, and that will ensure that funds are targeted just for education from the casino revenues. And that would mean that the state of Maryland could not divert those funds to any other program. And so I hope that everybody will support that. But we fight continuously for education and recreation, but hand in glove, it requires the city, also the city leaders, to make sure that they target the money for recreation accordingly. So thank you so very much.
Delegate Glenn is right. We put money in what they call the Kerwin Commission this year. And that Kerwin Commission deals with technology, upgrades of technology and teaching of technology and that sort of a curriculum. So money has already been put in there for that. As it relates to the recreation is pretty much what's either the school system and or the council. You have a councilwoman back there now. They're the ones that deal with recreation, is separate from the education system. So recreational activities, which she can explain if you like, it comes from the Department of Recreation and Parks. It's not a part of the school system. But if there are activities within the school system that they want to provide, that's kind of left up to the school. In Annapolis, you legislate the funding. We bring the money, bring the bacon home. We make it possible for you to learn and to learn aggressively. So that's kind of what we do as a legislator. And we don't micromanage the school system. So they kind of make their own mind up as to how they want to do that.
Thank you for the question. I just want to make sure I want to restate it and make sure I answer your question. You wanted to know how we could have more equitable funding of Baltimore City Schools, correct? As has been mentioned by the other panelists, there is the Kerwin Commission, which has made a lot of recommendations about how we can strengthen our public schools. And before we even get to K through 12, one of the recommendations is universal kindergarten, which is really important in preschool to make sure that our young people are prepared to hit the ground running. But one of the things you asked about in terms of funding, places that have entrenched poverty, which are notably cities like Baltimore and other parts of Prince George's County, we need to make sure this funding formula looks at the median income in our city, so that we're really making sure that communities that need the funding and the school systems that need the funding the most get more than what they've been getting in the past. Another thing, people always ask, well, where is that money going to come from? One of the things about gambling dollars, and I'm so glad that we're going to make sure the funding not supplements, doesn't supplant but supplements existing funding, is that we're gambling on gambling. I think we should make sure we look at other dedicated funding streams, like increasing the taxes on cigarettes and tobacco products, because those are also not helping people to live long and healthy lives. I think we should also look at taxing the millionaires and the most rich people in Maryland, because you don't need to have a child in Baltimore City Schools to care about Baltimore children. You don't even need to have children at all, because if you want to have a state and a city that's strong into the future, you should care about every young person. You should want them to be able to fly as high as their dreams or aspirations can take them. So again, if we're going to have equitable funding, you have to look at the median income. We also need to make sure that we are looking at dedicated funding streams. And thank you for your question.
Equitable funding would mean inclusion. It would also mean that we have to elevate the culture of education. And what I mean by that is that we have to be present, and bipartisan leadership has to take place. And the reason why I keep mentioning bipartisan legislation is that the governor, the mayor, and the legislators have to work together to make sure that funding reaches this designated target. If it doesn't reach the target, then the kids again will be left out. So for me, what we need to do is invest more into the family structure. We have to invest in that family structure, because the family structure is the most important asset to the family. And if everybody in the household is working, then the economic base and the dynamics are different. But when you're not investing in education, community, and jobs, then it can become an issue. So to get more funding for your after-school program and for art and music, we have to do bipartisan politics. And that means that just because we have a leader that can go to Annapolis and lead, they have to be willing to talk about what the issues are, what the concerns are of the children, and are they willing to talk about that and lead on that issue.
Thank you for your question. From my time working with the middle school program for the Urban Debate League, one of the things that I've come to understand is that young people are oftentimes the best advocates for things in schools. So one of the first things that I will do is put together a group of young people who are able to come and advise the policy and the ideas prior to the legislation getting passed. So it's not going to be, I'll come here and tell you afterwards this is what we did. I'm going to go to schools and find leaders like yourself and ask you to be involved in the process of telling us what's going on and lobbying and discussing things in Annapolis. That I know I can do. Now, if I get elected, I'll be a green and I'll need tripartisan cooperation to work. But one of the things that I'm going to push for is to make sure that public dollars are going to public schools and that we're not diverting public dollars to either private schools or to charter schools, which are somewhere in the middle. We need public dollars allocated for public schools. And the third thing is we need the people who most benefit from the wealth and educational value in Maryland to pay for the places where there is the most underfunded schools. So I would look into something like a millionaire's tax, but also a millionaire school system tax where the schools that have the most resources, the people in those communities are paying for the folks that school need more. But the most important thing, and the thing that I know I can do and I can guarantee, is that I'm going to include young people in every part of the process.
You heard everyone say about money's coming in, but also it's really important. We need to form a watchdog committee for every school to get parents even more involved to make sure that this funding is being spent right. The money comes in, but we don't know what happened with it. I think that's a terrible disconnect. As my kids from kindergarten to 5th grade attend children, I was president of the Parents Council. Accountability. So we have to hold people accountable for what kind of money is supposed to be coming into Baltimore City for our school system and into these individual schools. And we got to get the parents more involved in overseeing what happened with that funding.
Thank you. Good morning, Marcus Dent. Having worked directly with Tess Tillman for years, School 13, I work directly with Ms. Richardson, her math class every single year. I also work with Ms. Williams on a lot of different programs, the assistant principal over there, to make sure that you guys are getting the things that you need. Now, when you talk about funding, you need to talk about diverse funding sources, multiple streams of funding, right? So we have what we call grants that are available. The Family League has been very supportive over the years, especially with the out-of-school programming. Right now, I've been working with Maryland Out-of-School Time, to try to get different funding streams to come into Baltimore City so we can have a more equitable funding stream. Again, Marcus Dent, candidate for delegate. Thank you.
First, can we get a round of applause for the chief editor? So I want to start off by saying North Ave needs to spend the money they're getting in a different way. And in order to do so, we need to reimagine the school day. We need to think about it in a sense where we want to keep the kids more engaged in the school day. Like the way I went to school and the way some of you guys went to school is the same way we're operating now. And the resources are not being applied the way we need them to just because the system is outdated. So with that, we want to figure out whose programs to cut, who to tax, to make sure that, the teachers also have all of the supplies they need. It's great to give the kids computers and all of that stuff, but if the teachers are still paying out of pocket for paper and supplies like that, we're not doing our job. So, and the other thing that we need to focus on is increasing support, like the delegate said, to Parks and Rec to make sure that they can fund programs like, the sports programs, the edit, after school, whatever programs we do as far as youth enrichment. So, thank you.
Thank you again for that question. I guess I'm gonna direct this answer right to you. So, I know what it's like to be in a hot classroom. I know what it's like to be in a school that don't have a sport that you want to play. In my high school, we were a new high school. We didn't have a baseball team. I had to play with Southwestern. So I know what that's like. And I also know what it's like to go to a rec center and be told you got to wait outside until somebody come out so you can go in like you're at a nightclub or something. So what I would do, and I think what we need, is a fighter in Annapolis that really know what it is that our young people want. Someone that'll fight for the right recommendation from the current commission that makes sure that it benefits our children, and also someone and someone that will fight for a millionaire's tax.
Thank you for your question. I'm Caitlin Young. You know, I'm not going to repeat some of the stuff that we heard about the Kirwan Commission and the funding formula. Those are things that definitely, absolutely need to happen. Stephanie talked about indexing it to the median income in different counties. That's important, major keys. But what I want to talk to you about specifically is the technology piece that you mentioned. I was a 7th and 8th grade mathematics teacher at Mount Roy Elementary Middle about 5 years ago. And one of the challenges that I had in the class was differentiation. What differentiation is being able to tailor your lesson plan to different students of different learning types and different abilities. One of the kids that I had was legally blind. And so I had an iPad, and so I was able to connect my smart board. I had a smart board, which many classes don't have, so I was lucky to have that, to my computer and to the iPad. And he was able to move the slides, and it was really interactive for a lot of students, and it helped them learn. But like I said, many classes don't have smart boards. And then with our changing industries and technology and job force in our country, we need to make sure that our schools are able to integrate technology so that way the kids can be prepared to code and to be able to take these jobs of the future. So as an advocate in Annapolis, I would certainly fight for funding to make sure that there are computers in every classroom and that those lesson plans, there are programs to teach teachers how to create lesson plans to integrate technology into what they're teaching to their students. Kaylin Young, thank you.
I believe in better teachers. I feel that if Baltimore City can go out and recruit, go to the colleges and see if we can get the teachers that are coming up and they could go outside the box and teach our children different things instead of the agenda that everyone goes through. I want other ways of thinking, and also funding wise, like others. I'm not sure about the mirror tax, if that works, if not, yes, but we also need parents involved, PTA, and other things like that. So I encourage that and other things. Thank you.
It worked well.
Thank you. All right, let's go on with our next question.